What is up, Whisper Nation? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the Fantasy Whispers. I'm Johnny Game Time. You can find me on Twitter at Johnny_Game Time. Excuse me. We are talking 5 deep sleepers. Like, I'm talking deep sleepers, so deep they could just stay asleep. But I would bet that they are going to vastly outprove their ADP, and they're going to be guys that you're going to want to beat the waiver wire rush on, because these are guys that are most likely going to be in top articles within the first couple of weeks on guys that you're going to want to pick up off the waiver. So you could beat all of that and just get them in your draft, and then you got them before your whole league mates. Now, you don't have to take all 5 of these guys, but you can certainly take a couple of these guys as late round dart throws that I think are going to really help you win your championship. All on today's episode. That and NFL training camp news right here on the Fantasy Whispers.
Right here.
What is going on, Whisper Nation? And welcome back to another live episode. If you like Fantasy Whispers, if you like fantasy football content, make sure you hit that like and subscribe on the way in. Greatly helps us, greatly helps the channel, and really grows this community, which what we're all about here. As you could tell, no Big Travie again today. He was heading back from Denver, got lost in Las Vegas, if you believe it or not. I doubt that a little bit. I think he purposely got lost in Vegas, if you ask me. But he will be back on Friday's live show. So make sure you hit that subscribe and hit that bell so you get notified when we go live for the Friday show, because we'll be talking about 5 deep running back sleepers that you're going to want to get for your roster and take a couple of those guys. We've got a couple of really good gems on that one as well. But for today, I've got 5 deep sleepers at the wide receiver position that you will definitely want to grab at least 1 or 2. But before we get into that, I want to talk some training camp news, throughout the league, some stuff that's popping off. I do want to mention everyone who's watching live now. Appreciate you guys. If you could do me a huge favor, hit that like on the way in, hit that blue thumbs up. It really helps get that algorithm out there. And if you aren't subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And also let me know what you're doing today. Let me know if there's any deep sleepers that you guys are eyeing, and we might talk about them on the show, or I could bring them up and talk about them. All right, first let's get into this training camp news around the league. We got NFL Network's Mike Garofalo reports that Ravens first round rookie wide receiver Rashod Bateman is week to week with a groin injury. This is not good news because he was having a really nice training camp. He had some really big flash plays. People were already touting him as, essentially the breakout rookie of the year. And then he goes down with this groin injury. It misses time with Lamar Jackson, who just came back from the COVID list. So not a good sign here. It is being reported, though, he should be back before week 1, which is good. He's not the only one that's dealing with a groin injury right now. Also, my boy DeAndre Swift is missing quote-unquote significant time while nursing a sore groin during training camp. MLive.com's Kyle Mankey reports. Again, this is not good news when you're talking about a groin injury for a running back who, needs especially explosive one like DeAndre Swift, who cuts a lot. He breaks a lot of tackles. Not good when you're heading in. Hopefully, we'll monitor this over the next couple of weeks. The good thing is that he does have a good amount of time still to get healthy. Never like missing practice time, though. But so keep monitored this. We might lower him in our rankings depending on how close to the regular season he gets. But again, this kind of thing hindered. Now, I'm not saying it's to the severity, because we haven't had that kind of information yet. But I'm not saying it's to the severity of David Montgomery last year. But we saw how he kind of started out of the gates a little bit slow. So definitely something to monitor there. The next one here is the Dallas Cowboys activate wide receiver Amari Cooper from the active PUP list. They're saying he looks good. This is good information. Let me know if you guys watched Hard Knocks last night. I have not watched it yet. I'm looking forward to it, I guess. There was a lot of stuff going on Twitter last night about it. Looking forward to this. We'll see, I guess, in the next couple of episodes what Amari Cooper looks like, if they're telling the truth. If or not, he is in shape. But that is something that is good, though, for people who have already drafted Amari Cooper. Getting him back on the field is definitely important. This last or second to last thing here is very significant that we definitely need to monitor very, very closely. We talked about it on last Friday's show, but at that point, it was just day 2. But Raiders tight end Darren Waller has missed 8 straight days of training camp. This is very, very interesting because there has been no information, whether it's injury related, whether it's a personal thing. They have not said anything. They've kept their mouths sealed, and I'm starting to worry a little bit. As a result, I have lowered Darren Waller in my rankings. I no longer have him as the tight end 2. I also am concerned because I was looking at his market share there, and he had a very significant jump last year in his target market share. Now, I'm not saying that can't happen again, but he had like 28%, which is very significant for not only any player, right, but a tight end. And you have to kind of factor in some things that might not be repeated, right? Like Bryan Edwards, who hint, hint, wink, wink, was on the thumbnail of this show, and we will talk about him a little bit later. But you've got him, you've got a potentially expanded role for Ruggs. There's just a lot more pieces that could elevate their game, which could cause Darren Waller's target market share all to come down, which isn't to say that he's going to fall out and be a terrible tight end. It's just something to monitor. And then especially if he's missing training camp days and we're not aware of why that is definitely something to watch for. Lastly, Giants activated running back Saquon Barkley from he has an ACL injury and MCL and PCL. I think it was his entire knee. But they have activated him from the PUP list. This is good news. Now, they were talking about how they were going to try to get him some contact before the regular season. There are rumors he'll play in that 4th and final preseason game. We'll see what he looks like. I don't know. I'm still not convinced he's full go by week 1. Even if he does play week 1, I think it's very limited snaps. So there is some caution when you're trying to, look where to draft Saquon Barkley. I know that's been a big topic lately. Where should you take Saquon? People want to point out, what his ceiling was a couple of years ago when he was playing. And there are a lot of things that have changed for the New York Giants in that. They have a different offensive coordinator. They have more weapons than they had. They just, Kenny G is currently injured. I understand that. He's dealing with a hamstring, but I certainly project him to be there for the bulk of the season, if not all the season. And you've also got Kadarius Toney there. You've got other running backs that they didn't have that kind of depth in prior years. So there are a lot of things that are kind of adding up for me to lower Saquon in my rankings. Now, where would I take him? That's kind of personal preference on how you like to play your game. If you take him, just know that, hey, in the later rounds, I might have to reach a round or two on getting a more solid running back, or a potential flyer running back that could at least get me through those first 4 to 5 weeks. Someone like Chase Edmonds, or, a lot of people aren't sold on Chase Edmonds, but even like Damian Harris, a guy like that, he could help survive and fill that running back for you if you do go the Saquon route. The other potential thing I don't really like about taking Saquon really early, like in the first round, I would only take him in the second, is the fact as of right now. Now, information could change, but the other thing is we're not so clear cut on who the backup running back is going to be. So it's not like a CMC situation or a Dalvin Cook situation where we know the immediate backup of Saquon. That's the other downside. If we did know that and it was more clear, then it would be easier to say, yeah, take Saquon, in the first and just make sure you pay up a round or two for his backup. But unfortunately, as of right now, we don't know exactly who that's going to be or get the bulk of those carries. So that's just a couple things to monitor around the league. Again, things are changing all the time. So if you're not following us on Twitter, I'm at Johnny_GameTime. You can also follow the Fantasy Whispers page at TF Whispers on Twitter. We tweet out information all the time, and you could certainly DM us and reach out to us on any social media platform, and we'll give you whatever advice that you need, as well as right here in the comments below in this video. Let me know once again, who are some of the big news what's going on, paying attention to, certainly as we head into this week one, realistically, of besides like the Hall of Fame game, the week one of preseason games, which I get excited for, because then you get to see these late round dart throws. You get to see what they could potentially do. So speaking of that, I do want to mention, before we get into the main part of our show, the 5 deep sleeper wide receivers that you're going to want to consider drafting this year. I want to mention we have 2 listener spots left open, and we're going to be doing the drawing this Friday for those spots to fill our listener league. It is going, where the draft is going to be on August 22nd. So mark your calendars. We'll also be doing a live stream of that draft. So it will be very fun to follow along for you. It'll be exciting for all the listeners that have already gotten in. But like I said, we have 2 spots left. And the way that you can get those, the only way you can get those spots, they are for Patreon subscribers. Whoever is, just a $5 tier. That's all you got to do. And donate $5 to our Patreon. And you also get a bunch of stuff with that. So it's not like you just get this entry. The entry is part of it, and there's like 9 people in there right now, so you have a pretty good shot at getting one of those 2 spots, and we already have given away to our Patreon. So make sure you head on over to the patreon.com/the Fantasy Whisperers and subscribe. It greatly helps our channel, helps us continue to grow content and put out content daily. All right, guys, let's get into the bulk of the show, shall we? The main part of why you guys stayed and listened to me ramble so far for the last 12 minutes. I appreciate you. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe for me. It gives me a boost to get into these wide receivers. Let me know in the comments once more, who are some wide receivers that you are looking at? Your first wide receiver we got here, a lot of hype. Hype is full bore right now for Darnell Mooney. Here's wide receiver. He's a wide receiver 50 coming off the board. Him at the end of the 10th round, early 11th, right? 12-team leagues. He is having an outstanding camp. We know that, Nagy has come out and said, he was grateful that no train there was no pre-draft, breaking where they go. Where is it? Under Olympics. I can't even think right now. But there was no pre-draft where he could rise up draft boards or people could really see what he could do. And, take that for what you will. People get steals at the wide receiver all the time. We always mention this, like DK Metcalf went past so many teams, including my Arizona Cardinals. So it doesn't even matter if you have that sometimes, because people still don't believe. There is not a lot of competition right now for Darnell Mooney, which is why I'm starting to get aboard. Originally, I thought it was going to be hard for him to get the targets with, Allen Robinson there with a expanded role for Cole Clement, the rookie coming in. I thought that it was going to be a little bit difficult. You also had Anthony Miller at the time. However, a couple of things have changed since then. Anthony Miller has been shipped off to the Houston Texans. We also have the fact that Cohen is right now on the PUP list, and he could be not ready to go by week 1. We'll see about that. I do expect Monty to get his receiving work, sure, but now that really opens the door for Darnell Mooney to take a nice big step and get a nice market share here. I'm talking like 18% potentially, which is a very significant role for a wide receiver 2, especially one that should be in a very fast-paced offense. And so for me, I was on the border of Darnell, but then once those moves happened, I moved him up. And then I was doing a little bit of research, and I found this from Pro Football Focus. I thought it was very interesting. I want to pass it along. Wide receiver Darnell Mooney caught just 4 of 23 targets that traveled 20-plus air yards. Not great, but we also know that he had terrible quarterbacks last year. Only 14 wide receivers saw more deep targets, but the 17.4 catch rate ranked 63rd among 70 wide receivers with 10-plus deep targets. Mooney had 0 drops, though. That's the big thing. He had 0 drops. So it was more of an accuracy issue than it was Darnell Mooney not being a good wide receiver or not being on the same wavelength or where he should be. he also was a rookie as well. So you have to factor in that he will get a little bit better because he is heading into his second year. I am excited for Darnell Mooney. He's going to be one of the guys that I'm definitely going to be watching in preseason. I want to see how he's playing against other defenses. I want to see what his targets are like. And he is definitely, like I said, a guy that you're getting in the later rounds that is definitely worth the dart throw, because he is a wide receiver 2 upside potential, top 30 wide receiver potential, and he's coming off the board as a wide receiver 50. You like it. All right, next guy I want to talk about here is probably one of my favorite guys to talk about, and I'll be honest, the reason why I like him so much is I've been rooting for him since his rookie season. He is a guy that I was hoping, now, looking at it, I'm hoping I was just a year too early, which sometimes happens for me. And that is wide receiver Mecole Hardman. He's coming off the board as wide receiver 51, rounds 12, the 1202 in a 12-team league. That is outrageous to me. Like, I have been drafting him every single time where I can. If I'm in that, even in the 11th round, I really don't mind paying up for a guy like Mecole Hardman. Why? Because he is having a great training camp, and then every single day you get on fantasy Twitter. I'm telling you, if you're not on fantasy Twitter, you got to get on fantasy Twitter and follow me at Johnny_GameTime. Shameless plug. But they have been posting, it's like daily, where it's, Pat Mahomes connects with Mecole Hardman for a 50-yard touchdown pass. Like, all these great, and of course, like, you want to link yourself to a great offense. Of course, that's the easiest argument to make. But the first round because the preseason games are this weekend, the first round of depth chart came out, and guess who was number 2 on that list, baby? Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman was number 2 on that first depth chart. Now, it is the first depth chart. It doesn't mean a whole lot, but it is nice seeing him that they have placed in there, because for a long time, there were rumors that, Byron Pringle, if the fun don't stop, Byron Pringle was rumored to potentially be that number 2. Or you had Robinson there as well. That was rumored to be the potential number 2, but the upside really wasn't there for Robinson. You put Mecole Hardman on the field the majority of the time, especially with an explosive wide receiver on the other side, like a Tyreek Hill. And I actually think Mecole Hardman is going to be one of, people are going to look back, 4 weeks into the season and be like, man, why did I not take Mecole Hardman? Why did I pass up Mecole Hardman with such great value? He is a guy that like I said, I'm definitely going after. I want to point out that when Mecole Hardman, it was his rookie year, and we have to remember he was very raw coming out, and he was potentially, we didn't know at that time Tyreek Hill's situation, because he was dealing with the legal stuff with his child. And so they drafted Mecole Hardman as a potential replacement at the time. That's what we, speculated. Then Tyreek came back, but he got injured. Tyreek got injured with a hamstring week. It was a hamstring, or sorry, excuse me. I believe it was a collarbone. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he got injured, and so Mecole came in as a rookie, and this is what he did during those few weeks when Tyreek was out. He finished as the wide receiver 20, the wide receiver 14, the wide receiver 66, and the wide receiver 31. Now, I just told you he was coming off the board as a wide receiver 51. So out of 4 starts, he outpaced that in 3 out of those 4 starts. And then, sure, people might say, oh, well, that's because he had the Tyreek Hill role. Well, you don't think that they're still going to have him run deep, especially if Tyreek's on the opposite side as a decoy? I think he's going to have massive upside weeks. He has league winner written all over him. He is a guy that absolutely you should definitely go and get. Before I jump into my third guy, which is my favorite guy, he is the guy that I 100% am drafting in every single league. I do want to give a shout out to everybody else in this live. We got 6 people watching. If you guys could give this a thumbs up, I'd greatly appreciate it. We got ML coming in, deep sleeper, Antonio Callaway. Hey, he's jumping the boat here. I may or may not be talking about him. Wink, wink there. He says, deep sleeper. If he makes the Chiefs roster, explosive talent, just needs to keep his head up straight. I'm fully aware, 99% chance that he doesn't pan out. Oh, Antonio Callaway. I got another Callaway that I'm not Antonio Callaway. That's a good one. I'll keep an eye out for that. I like that one. He also says, Mecole, good call. Let's see what I'm a Broncos fan in real life, but man, Mecole has excellent value in the 11th and 12th this year. Clear number 2 in my opinion. And my Antonio Callaway call is if Mecole and others don't pan out. I like it. I like it. Yep, fractured collarbone. Appreciate that. I love you, Whisper Nation, for helping me out on that one. No big Travis, so I can't just like quickly look up stuff behind the scenes here. All right, we're going to get into this next wide receiver here, and he is personally my favorite wide receiver on this list. I have been kind of screaming from the rooftops since back in, May. Hey, why is Jakobi Meyers going so late in drafts? It didn't make sense to me. This guy had 2 games. I understand it wasn't like that 2 games. Oh, John, you're doing 2 games. Listen, he is coming off the board as the wide receiver 78. ADP is 2001. So that is, most people don't have 20 rounds in their draft. This is for, expert leagues and things like that are factored in. And so he is free. He is free coming off the board right now. And I am telling you, there are very few wide receivers that have more upside and more consistent upside than wide receiver Jakobi Meyers for the New England Patriots. And I'll explain why. But first, I want to tell you why The Athletic, Jeff Howe, reports that Jakobi Meyers has been the Patriots' most consistent wide receiver in training camp, which I'm not surprised. He also points out that Meyers and Jonnu Smith have reeled in a team-high 15 passes each during practice time with Cam Newton and the starting offense, while N'Keal Harry has drawn some summer buzz and Nelson Aguilar is the new guy in town. Meyers has picked up right where he left off last season as New England's top wideout. Meyers can be had at the end of 12-team fantasy drafts. That is just lining up perfectly with what I've been, touting all offseason. Not to humble brag there, but I have been way on this hype bandwagon long before it even started. I think I got the choo-choo rolling. I got the train, going on this. And the big factor, yes, he had the two games over. He didn't even start playing until week 7 when he came on. But when he did start playing in week 7, he had, for the rest of the season, he had 2 games with over 100 receiving yards, including a 1 week where he had 169 receiving yards. He didn't score any touchdowns, which is the most likely reason why a lot of people aren't looking towards his direction. But you have to expect this offense to be better. And not only that, you have to also look at what role he played. He played the slot like 45% of the time. And when you look back at this offense and what they're trying to run there in New England, I'm telling you, they're going to run that Patriots offense that had Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. And you looked at the offensive coordinator during that time. Who was it? The same exact offensive coordinator they got right now. And so you look at what he did during that time. Yes, he gave the majority of the target market share to his tight ends. But right now, Hunter Henry is also injured and dealing with that. And not only that, what was the number 1 target right there for the wide receiver position? That was was the slot wide receiver. And that was either Wes Welker 1 year or Julian Edelman the other year. And we both really liked, I mean, Big Travi and I, and definitely Whisper Nation, I'm sure if you played that long, absolutely loved both of those players. And so I think that there's just as much upside. A lot of people are writing them off because it's the New England Patriots. They have Cam Newton, all these narratives that, hey, they are going to have to pass the ball. And they are going, when they pass the ball, they're going to go to the slot receiver or the guy that's most open or most in rapport, and that's going to be Jakobi. We got Mr. Oh, I'm going to butcher this name. I apologize. I have no idea. I'm just going to, Miyagi. Oh, Mr. Miyagi. That's what it is. I should have noticed by the trees. Love that, dude. Mr. Miyagi stopping by? Me. Today's just getting better and better. If you're new to our channel, please consider hitting that subscribe, hitting that bell so you get notified whenever we drop new content, which is daily, especially with the season getting ready to ramp up. We appreciate you. Yeah. Oh, it's Stormtrooper. You changed your name. You changed your name, Stormtrooper. I like the last one, but that's a good one. Mr. Miyagi is a good one. All right. This next side, we're on guy 3. I do also have I'm going to give you guys a bonus one at the end of the show. So stick around for that one. That one's going to be a nice one. It's a fire take. The next guy we got on this list, another guy that's going undrafted. I don't know what's going on here, but this is what's great. You grab a couple of these guys. They don't cost a lot. The upside is definitely there, and I'm going to explain why right after I drink something. Okay. Bryan Edwards, wide receiver 80 coming off the board, ADP 2008. So again, he's super deep. He's a super deep sleeper. Could stay asleep. But I would bet that this is a year we see the second-year wide receiver. Most people are on the Henry Ruggs bandwagon. Big Travy's one of them. But Big Travy's not on this episode, so I knew I could bring up Bryan Edwards without getting him too heated. I'm telling you, you want to, when in doubt, go with talent on when you're talking about football. Like, people will try to make talent work. Even if it's not panned out before, they will try to make talent work. And why am I so set on Bryan Edwards over Ruggs? Because most people will say, well, Ruggs must be the more talented wide receiver because he was the number one wide receiver taken. He was taken above CeeDee Lamb, Jefferson. So he must be more. Well, I'll say people make mistakes all the time. Clearly, the Raiders made a mistake there. And I'm presuming, based on how they drafted, that they knew they could get Bryan Edwards later. And that was their big alpha that they wanted. And Ruggs was a good partner in crime, a good Robin to their Batman. And that's exactly what I think Bryan Edwards is going to be. I think he's going to be the Batman for this team, which is why I'm also projecting Waller to come down a little bit in market share, because last year, Bryan Edwards only played 3% or only saw 3% of targets. He was dealing with a high ankle sprain and he was dealing with COVID symptoms. So he was in and out of the lineup, and then Nelson Agholor started playing really well, and so they just left him in there because they play the same position. Now, John Brown has come in to this offense, but reports are that he's not, Bryan Edwards is well above John Brown as far as how he's playing that position and where he's going with that position. So it's looking like they're going to give it to him. And Bryan Edwards is a 6'3", 212-pound wide receiver. John Gruden has come out and said he reminds me of now on Terrell Owens. Like he's throwing out big names like Terrell Owens and Randy Moss. Now, a lot of people laughed. Twitter had a good time with it. They started throwing out everybody's name. Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, Larry Fitzgerald, all the names, right? Doing it big. And we know that sometimes that we heard from Hugh Jackson on the mock draft marathon. Coaches will do this from time to time. They'll hype up their players either to give them a boost or to create some wavelengths around the league. But what I will say is sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes coaches are actually very truthful in what they're saying. Like they'll say it. They'll say, like we laughed at Marlon Mack. Oh, Marlon Mack could be, a 1,200-yard rusher. We laughed at that. And then guess what? The very next season he was that. We see this when players that have talent and then the talent is also being talked up by the coach. That's what you kind of want to look for. And Bryan Edwards, like I said, with Nelson Agholor, who left this roster and went to New England, new man over there, like I talked about earlier. When Nelson Agholor left, he left a 13% target market share for this exact position. So you're looking at what Bryan Edwards was getting at 3%, and you figure he'll get the role of Nelson Agholor. That could be up to 16 to 18% target market share on this team. And he's a big-bodied wide receiver. So he is definitely a guy, a top 5 prospect when you're talking about the wide receivers coming into his rookie season. So could he put it all together this year and be one of those better breakout wide receiver 2 or second-year wide receivers? I do believe so. And like I said, the draft capital, he's free. So it's definitely worth the dart throw if you are looking for a high-end wide receiver. All right, the last guy we got here. Oh, we got Z coming in. Oh, appreciate you, Z. Could stay asleep. Definitely. All right. Last guy we'll talk about here is Marquez Callaway for the New Orleans Saints, wide receiver. He's a super, if all the other guys were deep sleepers, like he's a super deep sleeper. Right now he is rising up the ADP charts. He is rising up the depth chart for New Orleans. He's wide receiver 82 coming off the board, ADP 2108. The Athletics, Catherine Terrell reported that the second-year wide receiver, Marquez Callaway, is the go-to man, quote unquote, for both Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill at Saints camp. Love hearing that. We also know with Michael Thomas sidelined indefinitely and Traquan Smith missing practice time due to an injury, Callaway seems to have stepped into the Saints' number one role. The passing attack will run heavily through Alvin Kamara, but appears Callaway is the New Orleans best wideout right now, which is great to see. It's great to hear these kind of behind-the-scenes beat reporter news. And you look at the stats for Marquez, right? He had a true catch rate last year of 95.5%. So true catch rate is those balls that were thrown his way that were actually catchable. That was deemed at 95.5%. That's pretty great. And he had a contested catch rate of 75%. So you're looking at a guy, once again, if he's taking that wide receiver one role, we've seen that role be Michael Thomas. We've seen how much targets flow to that role. And I'm not saying, once again, like we pointed out, all indications is that this is going to be a heavily involvement for Alvin Kamara, especially early in the season and pass catching. So if you're in a PPR league, that's an early season boost to Alvin Kamara. But when you also, there is going to be a number two target here for this team, and that is going to be a good wide receiver to at least start your season off with. And, you can get him and play him for a few weeks, maybe trade him high before Michael Thomas comes back. He has the talent. He was highly touted. I shouldn't say highly touted. He was touted as a better wide receiver than what he went undrafted, but it was because he had a couple of injuries at the time. And so that was what the speculation was on why he fell in drafts. But he is definitely someone, when you're looking at this team again, Michael Thomas was seeing 30+% market share on this team as the number one wide receiver for over the last couple of years. And so when you're looking at this role, I'm not saying Marquez will get 30%, but for a few games, he'll be getting 25%, and then you extrapolate that over a season is why I bring that down, because eventually Michael Thomas will come back. Hopefully, we'll see. And if not, then you've got a season long that could be getting 25%. So I definitely see the upside there for Marquez. Like I said, I highly expect us to be writing about him come the first couple of weeks. We know how much this offense likes to pass, how much they're usually in the red zone. So give me a guy like Callaway who could be a very nice PPR machine up until Michael Thomas gets back, set you off nicely. I know it's Mr. Miyagi doesn't like the Marquez. I get it. That, like I said, that one's a super deep. You don't have to go for all of these guys. Just grab one or two of them. And I'm telling you, one or two of them, you grab one or two of them, and they're going to eventually play for you. You'll beat the waiver wire. That's what we're trying to do here. All right, the last and final one I'm just going to mention. I'm not going to do a deep dive into it. I just want to mention because he's very, very interesting. He's rising up my rankings right now. And that is rookie wide receiver Terrance Marshall. The reason I like him, real quick, he has been rumored to be playing that slot position role. And I like that role, especially for Sam Darnold. But I also like that because what do we see from that? We saw over 100 targets to Curtis Samuel last year in that same role. You project Terrance, I have him slightly under that. But if he gets something like that, he's a big body wide receiver that's great at contested catches at a position that Sam Darnold really loves to target. So all the arrows are kind of pointing towards Terrance Marshall, and he could potentially be, like I said, he could potentially be the Justin Jefferson of this year. And it wouldn't be such a stretch because he did play with Justin Jefferson. And like I said, he'll be getting a good amount of targets as long as he stays in that slot role. So he would be another guy I would be looking at. He's wide receiver 86. ADP is 81. His ADP is 1909. So again, super late dart throw that isn't going to cost you anything. And I definitely think that there's a lot of upside, a lot more upside than where he is going in drafts. So definitely check those out. Once again, I want to say thank you to Whisper Nation. That is the show. I was going to say our show. I'm so used to Travis being here and saying things like we and I and stuff like that. When it's me, doesn't sound so great. People are going to be like, Johnny's going crazy over here. Let's see. Mystery Eye could be Nelson Aguilar, but Meyers route running definitely improved from last year. Listen, I understand that there are for sure people that think Nelson could take over, but we have to understand as well, we've seen this is a very complex system, and we've seen wide receivers struggle when they first come to New England. We also have seen Nelson Aguilar struggle right away when he gets to a new system. It wasn't like he just went to the Raiders and then he was instantly startable week one. It took him a couple of weeks, right? He wasn't even leading that depth chart. It was Bryan Edwards. So that's why I'm a little bit more reserved on a guy like Nelson Aguilar over Meyers. I think he has a tremendous amount of upside. Let's see. He looked real good during training camp when I went and you went. Yeah. Okay, sweet. Dude. Hopefully you tweet out some messages there while you're out there. Yeah, I want to see. I'm very interested in Mac. I'm very interested in Mac Jones and what he is doing. And I hope he takes over that starting job sooner rather than later, because it would be better for this offense, I believe. And I'm not going to lie, I do think Damian Harris is going to be a very nice running back. And I need him to be, or in order for him to be, Cam can't be the full-time starter because he'll take away a lot of defense, rushing touchdowns. Excuse me. All right. That does it for today's show. Like I said, I appreciate you guys for stopping by. If you haven't yet, if you could hit me with that like, hit me with the subscribe on the way out, greatly appreciate it. If you guys need any help, I know fantasy football drafts are coming up. If you need any help with your fantasy football drafts, feel free to DM us. We love answering questions. Or the easier thing, if you really want to get prepared, just go to the link in the description, grab our draft kit. We just sent out an update telling you this thing will get you absolutely prepared for your drafts, or you could just walk into your drafts and have it all right there for you. And you can look up players as you need. It's 167 pages. I'm telling you, 167 page PDF of awesome fantasy football content. It's only $15, and it will greatly help improve our chance of getting you that championship this year. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys so much once again for stopping by. Until Friday, we'll be live on Friday. So will Big Travie. Until Friday, take it easy, Whisper Nation. You have a good night. Peace.
Right here.
Oh, hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw and you want to learn how to dominate your own draft and win your own league, head on over to thefantasywhisperers.com and grab your copy of the Fantasy Whisperers Draft Kit today, or click the link in the description below. And if you're still not sold, check out one of these videos.